Uh-huh.
Yes. You tell me. You tell me when.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. We're This is our inner transformation lessons and study. All are welcome. We're going to open with a prayer. Nora, you want to do the opening prayer?
Let's close our eyes if it feels natural, or just tune into this beautiful vibration this evening, gathering here tonight as we're studying these droplets of hope, regeneration, and just overall love and compassion. We ask the spirits to inspire our dear sister Sonia, for everyone listening live on demand, and also the spirit realm, that we're all inspired and that we are blessed if we have our waters, that the mentors start working by our sides for that healing. With that, we kindly ask permission to begin this study. And so be it.
Thank you.
And so it is.
And we all welcome Sonia, who will be giving us a lesson on You Are the Light of the World. Just welcome, Sonia. Yay, 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 yay.
Thank you. Well, that's the goal here, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So I have to start out by saying I love to do research on things. And this was I liked it a whole lot in doing this. So I have quite a bit of notes and I'm going to skip around. But pretty much when I started doing this, it was I want to say the theme just said in different ways that I thought was it was good. It helped me more. I would say connect the dots. So in looking at you are the light of the world, it is connected with the second slide that says you are the salt of the earth. So in looking at them both, light of the world and salt of the earth, the origins of that comes from the sermon of Jesus, the Jesus Sermon on the Mount, which is in Matthew chapter 5, verse 14. And one of the things with the light of the world, um, it's very associated. The light, the word light, is very much associated with God. Um, it it's our inner understanding. Um, is an example. Self enlightenment, uh, shedding the light. Um, so the words that we read of light, at least I've had the experience that we associate it with God our Father. And um, so on this slide where he says it can, that was the other thing too. If so, back in long time ago, salt was very much used. It was very much valued. Salt had a lot of value. I want to say more so than gold. Um, Salt was used for preserving food. It was actually it's the next slide. I'm sorry. Um, no, it's the third one. It was used for ceremonial uses, for seasoning food, but it was also used for preserving food. Um, the salt that they used was also when Jesus taught. It's anyway that Jesus taught of preserving themselves from trying to preserve themselves for failures, and he would refer to his disciples as salt of the earth for that same way for preservation. And it was used, like I said, it was more valuable than gold, and it was used as an exchange. It was used in exchange like money, if you will, and they even would purchase, unfortunately, they would purchase slaves with salt and they use it to melt ice. So it did have a lot of value in it, and it had a lot of meaning at the same time. So it in the next slide, and it says, in Jesus' day, salt was a rare commodity. Greek aristocrats had a custom of, buying their slaves with salt. If the slave did not meet the purchaser's expectation, that slave was not worth his salt. Hence the expression, he is not worth his salt. As time has gone by, that expression has changed to more positive, that you're worth your salt, meaning you're of value. Back in the time of Jesus, that was not the case. It says, as salt followers of Jesus' teachings, we are extremely precious commodities in this world. And that's because of the value following of Jesus. And there's more on that, the following of Jesus, as to how we are called to preserve, if that's what you want to call the word, to preserve our, just like the disciples did. You were preserving our humanity, our morals, values. So that's why we're relied on as salt of the earth, because it plays a major role in the testaments and in the offerings. So I'll get back to that too, because like I said, I have a lot. Both the salt and earth were metaphors symbolizing how Christians would influence and should influence the world, and they are connected to the Beatitudes. And let me go. I'm not even following this, because the light in and of itself. Okay, so the light in and of itself, it does mean and symbolize Jesus, and with the Beatitudes, which the Beatitudes are the characteristic traits of true believers, those who are part of the kingdom of heaven and the light. So the Beatitudes are when the poor in spirit, the mourners, the meek, those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, and they're the merciful, pure in heart, and the peacemakers. And I know we had a presentation on the peacemakers. So this one, it says, you are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on the stand and give light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before men, that they may see your good deeds and praise your Father in heaven. That to me is the being the light and the salt. Like I said, I found it to be very connected. So, and this is the same thing. Lamps were used in the time of Jesus. The lamps were made of clay. They had reservoirs for oil. The nozzle, the wick would rest there, and the household would use the lamps that were small enough to be carried in the palm of your hand. I would, like our flashlights now, I would think. And when it was dark enough to light a lamp, people would set it high enough to illuminate everything around them on a shelf or on a stone wall of their home, or a wooden lamp stand in the center of a room, which makes sense because the higher the light, the more it illuminates. And then it goes on to share the simple story of a man who drove his team and wagon swiftly and safely through the dark forest. And afterwards, he was asked how he knew where all the trees were along the road, so that he could miss them as he drove the narrow road. And he replied that he did not know where they were. I looked up at the opening between the trees, and I knew that if I followed the light above, I could be safe. And I think that that's beautiful because it also reminded me, yeah, of the moon. The moon is the light, and we know when the moon is full, it lights up a whole lot, rather when there isn't a moon. So letting our light shine is not a mere abstraction. We must engage in concrete behaviors. So, um, so when we, I guess the question I would have is, what does it mean when we allow our light to shine? What does that look like? Because I think um, the lesson here perhaps might be different on a day-to-day basis of how we do let our light shine with others. And as you can see on the second one, and it says, um, by the way we live our lives, the choices we make, and the attitudes that we exhibit. Um, I think just those three things are very powerful, um, and it's different for us all, but yet somehow, in a manner, all of us do shine our light, because it's just expressed in different ways, and I think it makes me think of the light, that's what they were saying about that clay. It's put up so everybody can see and share. So I don't know.
Well, I
It's
think
got,
it's number three is speaks volumes,
yeah,
especially if you are in a situation where you're being watched by children or being watched, even if you're um, in a teacher's position and the kids are watching your behavior and your actions, and the respect that you have for the child that's in front of you, the respect that you have for your coworkers or your neighbor, or even someone in your family. There's always somebody watching you. So, and the more gentle and kind you are, I think that's the biggest teaching. You're showing this is how you can handle this situation by your morals and shining your light in that manner. That's how I see it anyway.
yeah, yeah. Um, I was reading on a course, and it made a lot of sense. It made me think of this lesson, because it said when you meet people or you see their body language, and when they have light or they're in the light, you can totally see by their demeanor, um, their tone, their choice of words, everything like that. And I thought, that is so true. um, when you meet someone, and I don't think it's just their energy, but it's everything else that comes with it. So that made me think of this slide. So like you said, Regina, it says, when our light shines, when we love instead of hate, when we seek reconciliation and pray for our enemies instead of seeking vengeance. Um, and our light shines when we talk uprightly and speak the truth in love and without compromise. Um, I think that in of itself speaks volumes. And as I'm looking at all these things that I wrote down, I'm just like, wow, it's a lot of it, it's saying the same things. I just retain more when I write. Um, I don't know if I mentioned this, but that was Jesus referred to his disciples as the light of the world. So, all right. Moving on here. Your life is something opaque, not transparent. As long as you look at it in an ordinary human way. But if you hold it up against the light of God's goodness, it shines and it turns transparent, radiant and bright. And then you ask yourself in amazement, is this really my own life I see before me? Any comments on that? Our life. We're human beings, and coming into that transparency. And I think that's what I was referring to earlier about when you meet someone, you can sense or feel or see or hear their gentleness.
Yeah, honestly, Tanya to me was the first person who demonstrated this very thing right here to me. She's very transparent. Even her apologies, all of that has always been, um, I don't want to use the word impressive, but a learning to me, I thought it's amazing to see somebody openly admit a wrong, admit that there's love and forgiving. It's just a very beautiful thing to see. The light of somebody who's genuine in their apology. Not anybody could be that way, but it was just that struck me when I met her a long time ago. And
It's like insane in a good way, Regina. What you see is what you get, but in a positive manner.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So in the next slide here, it says oftentimes.
Can I say something real quick? I couldn't
Oh,
find.
sure. I'm sorry.
No, I couldn't find the buttons here. Thank you. I really love this concept that, Albert Schweitzer brings about this difference, of our life when we hold it up against God's goodness, right? All of a sudden we see that light, and I feel like it's an action, it's a state as well. It's such a different concept when you just look at your life, just look at it. There's no higher level inferencing or thinking or any of it. You're just kind of looking at it and you get that color. But all of a sudden, when we start thinking about God's goodness and what does it mean to be in that state, that vibration,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
We start to see that light radiating, and it's such an action concept, and it's a very nice thing to remember. Like for me, it was like it's a state. That means that I have a choice too. I can choose to live my whole life and look at it as opaque, or I could also try really hard and work on that other side, like how can I get closer to God? What can I do? That's what came to me with this slide.
Yeah. I think also too, one of the things that I like to practice, if you will, is even when you close your eyes and you can see light, um, and you are able, that's kind of why the sayings are, the light bulb went on when you think of something. But I think owning something, accepting it and moving forth, I think that takes a lot of courage and strength. But at the same time, that enlightenment in and of itself allows us not just to learn, but to move forward, knowing that with your faith, that you will be on your path, and we're never alone. And asking always for guidance and trusting that guidance, and by having that faith, that's how I see, even the sun in and of itself. It's so comforting. Although when it's 104 or something, then it's hot. But um, anyway, that's what comes to my mind about becoming aware, opening your eyes, and moving on from there. If you, that's the idea. Anybody else? Oh, okay. Oftentimes, in contemplation of our own limitations, we feel powerless, impotent, and small, making it hard to believe that we one day will be able to have even a little light to shine. We should never despair and never lose hope. We are never inadequate nor powerful beyond our measure. Um, I think this is well put, and I think we do meet folks either way that think that they're either not good enough or inadequate, and then the flip side of that of they're all powerful and think they're God, right, Regina? So,
I think we all have a moment.
well, I'm just thinking of someone that would talk to us and honestly believe that direct contact with God,
Oh,
right?
yeah, right.
Anyway, um, anyway, that's fine if that's her belief, I guess. Um, so let's see, in the next slide, it says, there is a powerful light of truth and goodness that exists inside of us. I wholeheartedly agree with that. If we allow this light of ours to shine brightly, it will unconsciously allow others to do the same. And I think that's the opening of yourself and your truth and being genuine, like Regina was saying about Tanya. And then people will match that, if you will, match that energy, and feeling that love and gentleness. Does anybody else have a comment related to that? Let's see. Okay. So there's a story here, I guess. One evening, a man took a small candle from a box and began to climb a long, winding stairway. Where are you going? Asked the candle. We're going up higher than a house to show the ships that way to the harbor. But no ship in the harbor could ever see my light, the candle said. It is so very small. If your light is small, the man said, just keep on burning brightly and leave the rest to me. The, I I would like to hear a comment about how do we or you interpret that about the light being small, but yet you keep burning and leave the rest. Leave the rest to God. Anybody?
Yeah, I don't think you have to be boisterous. You don't have to be boisterous about where you are in your quiet in your heart. I don't think you have to show off or raise a flag. This is what I do, how I do it. Being humble, basically.
Mm,
Staying in your space.
Yeah, I look at it. I agree. And am I off mute? Hello? Am I talking? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I agree with you, and I believe that as long as you still are aware all the time that even if your light is low, if it's a small light, that God will take care of everything else by you shining your light to even one person right there, and then that person somehow gets changed their ways of life or saved, as per se, and then that's how your light will shine like a diamond, something like that. You know what I mean? Like it shines more when more people are exposed to your little lights of whatever it is that God is putting you in front of them for. That's what I think.
Anybody else?
I was I don't know if you guys have seen that movie Encanto. I think that's the name. And
Oh
it's
yeah,
this,
the movie.
yeah, and their powers or whatever, the magic powers are based on this candle that the abuela or the grandmother has lighted, since the time when she crosses over or whatever and establishes her home. And then all of a sudden, I mean, everything was going on with just a little bit of light. And of course, then the light, the candle burns off or whatever, and so they lose all their power, right? And what was amazing was that this whole time, the way they regained that light in that candle, when it wasn't big, it was small. It was um by loving each other, by forgiving each other as a family, as a unit, believing in themselves, right? And having that courage despite the obstacle, and to not necessarily think of the magic or the powers of inside the candle, but it was actually them. So it didn't matter that if it was small light or big light, it was them, it was the people. And so I think, to me, that's what came to my mind. It doesn't have to be this big thing. It's the issue here is, what am I doing to keep doing the good, to keep doing things? That's what came to my mind.
And I apologize because I didn't read the last bullet where it says, when they reached the top of the long stairs, they came to a large lamp. Then he took the little candle and lit the big lamp. Soon the large polished mirrors behind the lamp sent beams of light out across the miles of sea. So there is a saying in Spanish that goes, with each little pebble, the the sack will soon be filled, so that you're all part of a bigger whole. And I always like that saying. And on the next slide where it shows all those candles, everybody is a part of God. I mean, we all are, and with all those little candles, and you make a big light. So, and it does say, as an analogy, we could say that we are God's candles. Our job is to keep on shining. There's something that I read and I wrote down. It says, Jesus said, our light is not necessarily in the witness of our words, rather in the witness of our good deeds, the good works. And then it gives examples like charity, actions, peace. And I really like that. And, it's kind of like, it's not what you say, but rather what you do is the interpretation that I took from that myself. Okay, and then it says, someday perhaps the inner light will shine forth from us, and then we'll need no other light. Uh-oh. You think that'll happen? Let's see. And we'll need no other light. Will we get our light so bright?
Well, I'm thinking that they're saying that inner transformation, you won't need it. You'll be like the sun. You won't need to be here on earth, I guess, at this low vibration anymore, trying to work your way, to being as bright as the sun. That's how I'm seeing it. I don't want to see it any other way.
I don't blame you. But yeah, it's kind of like we got a lot of work. At least I got a lot of work to do. And it is the inner transformation, like you said.
Kalia was asking me a question today. She said, well, you mean I've been here before? I said, yes. Don't you remember I told you you've been here many times? I said, remember the tree I was talking to you about? This time I reversed it. I said, every time you have a life, you get another leaf until the tree fills up with leaves.
That's a good analogy. So, all right, let's move on to our industry here. Industry, lose no time, be always employed in something useful, cut off all unnecessary actions. How often do we think about that?
Every time we know we overate, every time we drink something we shouldn't have been drinking, every time we went somewhere we shouldn't have gone, every time we watched something we shouldn't indulge in or said, the list is long.
And here, may I say
Yes,
something?
go, please.
Yes. And do you know what we have read right now from Goethe, the Wolfgang Goethe from Germany? And he said that when someday will be the light within us, inside us, and we will be, we don't need any more light. And that is what you said, that we are all candle of Jesus, but we are all candle. But it's important that we are, the light is on, and we are a light, but there is something that it put it on the matches or something that we have light. The candle without light is nothing like the other objects, and that is important that we have among the people, the teacher, that they help us to turn on our light. Thank you.
Thank you, Mosen. All right. Let's see here. Okay, so slide 17. If we are committed to work for our personal enlightenment, there is no time to waste. We should use every opportunity that life presents to us to learn and to grow. And I think that also speaks to the classes, our lessons, our presentations, what people share with one another. And it's ongoing. I think the time you stop learning, that's it. I think we never, I hope people never stop learning. But every day, every person, I think every encounter is an opportunity to learn something about ourselves, of others, in or what you won't do. Maybe, it's like, I don't know what I want, but I certainly know what I don't want, right? And then it says we should prevent ourselves from engaging in reproachable actions or any actions that may hinder us from siding with goodness. Make the right choice, and we use our free will. All right. And here it says number 642. In order to be pleasing to God and to ensure our future situation, is it enough to simply not do what is evil? No, all must do good to the limit of their abilities, since all will answer for all the evil that has resulted from the good that was left undone. Any comments on that?
Yeah, I was remembering a friend sent me this video, and let me see if the paraphrasing comes out good. It was about just a motivational speaker saying, if you think you are strong and no, if you think you are good and because you're good, you're strong, you're looking at this wrong. Because in this world, being good is so hard. So if you're trying to be good, that's how you build the strength. You're always fighting against that. If you think I am good, then you're actually weak because that means you're not really
Yeah.
enough. And that's kind of reminds me here, it's not just enough to, oh, I'm not doing anything. Like you have to work that,
Well, it's like the cup, when they say fill your cup, but if you think your cup's already full, then it just overflows and nothing goes in, right? So, anybody else? No? All right. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond our measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your plane small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We are born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us all. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Marianne Williamson, she's a good author. And I want to say that when I was reading this, it was not just very, very touching to me, but also I think in our day and age. I think that self-esteem, so many things that happen um, emotionally and mentally that it's hard um, to achieve, but yet it's possible to achieve, because I think that we are perhaps fearful of what we can be, or fearful of what we cannot be or achieve. So that's why when it says it's our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Any thoughts on this? No, we came.
Well, I was thinking about the light, I don't have enough light yet to be afraid, but I do have some darkness that I'd like to have light shed on. I'll put it that way. So I don't know. That's out of my hands right there.
What came to mind too was some great followers like Mother Teresa, even Dr. King, um, people that have the peace, and see Cesar Chavez. There's things that come to light of, even saying, I can grow up to be like that, or like them.
Oh, that movie Molly that I saw. I mean, that was the most impressive movie to this day yet. That one, and that saint that I forget his name. Remember that saint? I think he was in a priest, the father that was accused of something he never did.
Is it Father Stu?
No, the new
No.
one that Tanya told us about.
Oh, I
think-
haven't seen it, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it was so good. It was so good.
Yeah, that's what comes to mind. Yeah.
But when it comes to the light, when I think about that movie Molly, I think about how this man actually went from being rich to willingly giving up all his riches. And then I think about the most heartwarming thing about it is that the way he believed in God, his faith. I mean, he just lived it. He didn't talk all about it. He didn't say this or that. He lived it. It was the most beautiful movie. It's true story, documentary I had ever
Yeah.
seen.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably what everything is really about. It's about what she was saying. He just lived it, and what it means. And he didn't preach. He was not there in the street corner or whatever. But that means being it. When you just be every day the best that you can be, your light shines brighter and brighter, and people are aware that they start asking, like, why are you in such a great mood all the time? Why are you
Yeah.
so humble and stuff like that? So
Mhm.
that's what I think on that.
Yeah, I think humility is a big part too. Being humble.
May I share something to add to the thoughts that you all
Sure.
added? I went to one of the refugee camps this weekend, and it was a little different than the one I used to go with a group. And there's a pastor that's taking care, and it's a different setting. It's like three camps in one. In one of the encampments, his house is in the middle of it. That means that that's his property that he opened up, and there's so many refugees in there. You can see the roof of his home. So like that's where he lives around this. I said, oh my, I've never met him. Some of us don't even get to see him because he's so busy. And and I have to say right now reminded me, Miss Gina, what you said, and also our other brother tried to be the best. And I know that there were some comments about one time he almost wanted to quit, like he was so frustrated, but yet in that goodness and in that light, he persisted. And I think in all that, I can imagine if we were to maybe look at the energies of that place with all these stories that are very difficult and oppressive, the energies might not be like super bright, but I know that his home, it like stood out like really bright. And that was like a symbolic meaning of him in itself and his energy and all of that. And I think like you said, Miss Gina, these are just people who, it's like a mission that they have, and then they're like that, and you look up to them, right, Sonia? Too. You're like, wow, like how
Yeah.
can be this way? Like that's incredible. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Because with that also, there's a price to pay because,
Yeah.
people don't like it, but yeah. So, okay. So the next slide is Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and many of you might know that she is the one that did the 5 stages of grief. And it says, people are like stained glass windows. They sparkle and shine when the sun is out, but when the darkness sets in their true beauty is revealed only if there is light from within them. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah. Which is true. We've just been talking about that. Your light shining in the candle, the little candle, the big candle. So it says, let us kindle our light. And it says, you must shed light among your fellows. So Matthew 5, verse 16. Let's see. So darkness invades the path in all directions. Shadows that are born from ignorance, wickedness, foolishness, envelop peoples, institutions, individuals, myths that assail consciousness, reasoning, and sentiments. In the middle of the long night, it is necessary to kindle your light. It is impossible to find the way to liberation without it. Without this shining irradiation of your own being, you will neither be easily seen by the divine messengers who help in the name of the Almighty, nor effectively help anyone. That goes back to you can't give somebody something you don't have. It is indispensable to organize the inner sanctuary and shed light onto it so that the shadows will not take over. It is possible to march by the light of others. However, without our own brilliance, we are constantly under the threat of falling down. The owners of the bright lamps may go a different way from ours, summoned by the hills of the ascension that we as yet do not deserve. Our basic needs consist in self-enlightenment, inner understanding, self-education, and in a substantial conversation of the self to the kingdom of God. We can talk beautifully about life, discuss the splendor of faith, reach the values of the creed, eat the bread of consolation, exalt peace, gather the flowers of good, taste the fruit of generosity of others, conquer the ephemeral crown of easy praise, pile up many tiles that adorn you in your transit through the valley of the worlds. However, it's impossible to advance without light. I think that last sentence says it all right there.
Well, yeah, because if you're a light, that means that it's the outer. It's no longer something about internal, it's not about you. Like that other part that talked, when you meet the light, you see God's goodness. So if we are a light, it's not about us, right? It's about those around us, like giving of ourselves. That's what came to my mind.
Yeah. So that's by the Spirit Emmanuel and the medium Chico Xavier and the book The Pathways. I see in that little there's also just a sentence that I wrote. It says, whoever follows me shall be children of light, which in that one sentence in and of itself says a lot. Okay. So our next slide, it just says, hide it under a bushel. So that's what it was saying in the beginning of, if you can't hide it under, I would say, anything, because it's the light and it shines. So it'll still be seen in all of its goodness and all of its light. And I think that applies same for us as we were talking about earlier. So let your light shine before others.
And you can't hide your light. You can't hide God. Can't put it out.
Yeah. Yeah, there's it's very interesting, and all kinds of things like with light, and always trusting that we're never alone, having faith, and all kinds of it even says, for the love of God, what is it, and who is God to you? I think those are all things to contemplate, and how do you know? And I I I work in healthcare, and oftentimes when folks um, say I don't believe because there's no facts or any truths, all I can do is feel bad for them. I really can't say anything other than um, patients feel like they're being picked on, like God is picking on them. So then it was more like the victim piece, and then it always makes me wonder. I'm just like, wow, you know. And for them to be enlightened in a different way, so their journey is not as bad as they make it. But then the other piece too is when I feel appropriate, I will ask. um, I will ask if I can pray for them. So there's a flip side too. There's folks who um, are okay because they know it's God's will. So you get both sides of it. And I think it's interesting how people think and what they believe, and they have no qualms about letting you know what that might be. So anyway, so I think that's it, right? Yeah. Anybody have um any comments on anything? Oh,
Well, I mean, just one thing, if our light is low, also to pray, but even to find friends that help,
yeah,
foster that light. Sometimes we're a little low, and all it takes is for us to just, like I'm imagining a candle, like the light of the candle, and sometimes it's just that
yeah.
in their little fire, like to be mindful of sharing our light as well. And so,
All right, there's one last thing that I wanted to read. It says, Jesus said our light is not necessarily in the witness of words, rather in the witness of our deeds. So we got to do good
Uh,
work.
now I want to say something here.
Yes,
Hello,
we're
can you
here.
hear me? Oh, here in one sentence was, we are all meant to shine as child do. Then it means that all children are shining. They have the light in themselves. And why we don't have it? We are all born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. Then the light is within us, but while it's not shining, that is because we cover that by ourselves, by our thought, by hate, by anger, by not forgiving. And with this matter that we have, with behavior that we have, we cover the light. The light is shining in within us, but we don't let them to see that. And for ourselves, it's dark too. That is that we are in darkness, and we pray that please help us to make the light on again. Thank you.
Thanks, Mason.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have any thoughts, comments, share experiences? Hmm. God, everybody's so quiet. Okay. All right. So we get to do our closing prayer, Miss Gina. Anybody else? Oh,
No, we're at the closing prayer.
all right. Mosin, do you want to do our closing prayer?
No, thank you. I listen.
Oh, yeah.
Because I like to hear nice words.
Hi.
I like that answer. Any volunteers?
My words are, I'm sorry, that is,
That's okay.
I,
No, that's okay. No worries. I'll
some
do
better
it.
words.
I'll
I'll
do
do
it.
it.
I'll,
Okay.
okay, go ahead.
Now
then.
everybody's going to do it. Go ahead.
Let
Oh,
us
Lord.
let us close our eyes and lift our hearts, and let us open our heart to our divine Heavenly Father. Show our Father your light, no matter if it's a spark, a speck, a small candle, it doesn't matter. Let our Father see our light. And let us ask our Heavenly Father to continue lighting our journey with His divine light so that we may stay on our path. And that when we rest our bodies tonight, let us ask our Father to allow us to go study, to go pray, and to be of service for our other brothers and sisters who are in need. Dear Heavenly Father, nothing can be done without you. We give thanks to your justice. We give thanks to your love. We give thanks to our mentors for guiding and pushing us to continue moving forward. We love you, dear Father, and we love our beloved Jesus Christ. Thank you so much. And we ask that you bless the closing of our study today. In your name, so be it.
So it is.
So it
Amen.
is.
We got to
Amen.
remember it's in teaching that we learn more, right?
Mhm.
It's in teaching that we learn. Okay.